Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and in this video we're going to show 10 knives with Wharncliff blades. So we're looking for more of the typical Wharncliff blade, where from the spine all the way down to the tip, it just has a slow taper all the way down to the tip. Usually a real Wharncliff is supposed to have a perfectly straight edge here. You can see this one has a little bit of belly. This is the KERSHAW LEEK. This is a USA made KERSHAW. It is an assisted knife. Mine is the assisted, but it is a hollow ground 14C 28N blade, aluminum handles. It does have a steel liner lock. The clip is reversible, but in my opinion, it works better like this because when you flip it, there's so much hanging out of your pocket. And in this case, this is just a knife that it does work out better to be tipped down. But beautiful blade shape, very thin blade stock. So this thing is a really good slicer. It's so good at cutting. Now, Wharncliff blade shapes, what are they really good at? So they are amazing at opening things up, at getting a package and getting right down the seam and being able to open it right up like a razor blade. So they're really good for that. Now, obviously they can still slice and cut things up, but utility cuts is going to be something they are really good at. And then also like taking a box and getting around to the other side and hooking into it and running your edge right down. Like if this was backwards, being able to just go like this and run right down the seam and then change angles over here and go down this seam. It's going to be really good for things like that. So let's check out the next one. So the next one is the FINCHI Holiday. Now this is a very good example of a Wharncliff. So from the spine, taper, 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 all the way down to the very tip. The edge is nice and flat. And this one is a flat ground blade in 154 cm. Amazing action. So smooth. The detent is extremely well tuned on this. Thanks to Lefty EDC for sending me a bunch of FINCHI knives. Then we have beautiful snake wood. Now, you can get all different kinds of material on these. They have a few different materials, so you can kind of pick which one you want. But yeah, I think this is a great example of not only a Wharncliff blade, but also a traditional versus, or a traditional and modern mixed together. So like a modern knife with a traditional knife kind of mixed up all into one. Amazing, amazing knife. Ball bearing, pivot ceramic bearings that are super, super smooth. Titanium pocket clip. Amazing detent. Let's get to the next one. So the next one is a integral. So this is a TWOSUN TS195. Now this one is not as typical because yes, it does have the taper that goes all the way down to the edge. Yes, it is a perfectly flat edge right here, but it does have a couple little humps right here, and it has a little tiny of a little clip in the tip. Now, I don't think that really hurts it at all. I think this actually might benefit it a little bit because what it does is it helps bring the spine thickness down a little bit farther, and it helps reinforce a little bit of strength behind the tip when you're treating it like a claw. Now, this is the TWOSUN TS195, and it is an integral. So that means the handle is made out of one solid piece of titanium. They don't take two pieces and put it together. It's just one solid piece. So when you take this apart, you just take this part out right here, and there's like a window right here. You can just pop out the blade. Everything comes out. Really easy to work on. It does have a beautiful frag pattern. And even though it's an integral, it still does have a steel lock bar insert. And you can see it's a nice beefy steel lock bar insert. This thing is a fidgeter's dream. Multiple forms of deployment. Very easy reverse flicking action and thumb flicking action. And then it's also a top flipper. So we have lots of forms of deployment. The groove on this blade is nice and sharp, so it's very easy to reverse flick. Not too big of a knife either, so awesome, awesome knife. Full reviews on most of these knives. Next, we have the KIZER SPLINTER in micarta. So they just recently dropped this version in micarta and N690 steel. They have amazing micarta, first of all. So really, really good quality micarta. Now, besides that, it is a great little user. I do have a couple small complaints about this that I'll go over in the review, but I like it. I'm liking it quite a bit. Very, very snappy action. I mean, this is a little tiny flipper tab. If you like small flipper tabs, you'll probably love this one because the flipper tab does work very well. I almost wanted to complain at first because there was no jimping, but then now after having it for a little while, I'm actually enjoying it. It does have a nice swedge at the tip. Now, also, I forgot to say, this is not a perfectly flat edge. It does it has a flat spot right here and then tapers down. So it is more of a modified Wharncliff, but nevertheless, it works just like a Wharncliff, and it's still a Wharncliff, just a modified Wharncliff. I tried not to put too many modified Wharncliffs on here, but you see how the swedge stretches out right here on the top down to the tip, so it reinforces a little bit of strength behind the tip while still being nice and slicey. You get full cutting length all the way back to here, so when you're cutting, you don't ever have to worry about hitting a choil on this knife. Now, yeah, you're going to get a smile if you don't put in a sharpening choil or a finger choil or anything. However, you will get the benefits of never hitting anything. You can just keep repeating cutting without ever snagging a choil or a finger choil. Very, very smooth on the drop. Nice deep carry clip. Very, very snappy action. Let's get to the next one. I really like the lock bar access on this one too, by the way. Next, this one's been on the channel quite a bit. The KIZER Swag Swayback. So the new version in micarta does not have thumb studs. However, mine does have thumb studs, and they work great. The thumb studs work amazing, or the flipper tab. Both are very well tuned. The detent, or the spring button lock on this, is very, very strong, so it gives you great resistance. Beautiful Wharncliff blade. Great example of a Wharncliff, and in this case, nice and thin flat ground, but then it has this beautiful swedge that goes all the way down to help reinforce the tip while still allowing it to be very slicey. It does have the swayback handle design that kind of sweeps up right here. Some people like it, some people don't. The button lock works incredibly well. It is very, very smooth on its ceramic bearings. Flipping action is amazing, or thumb stud action, either one. Non-deep carry clip, and like I said, they do come in multiple different versions now with different colored micartas, G10 and non-thumb stud versions. Next, this one is the ARTISAN CENTAURI. Now, this one does have a modified Wharncliff. Everything is Wharncliff about it until you get down to the edge. It does have from here to here a little bit of upswept belly. Not much though, not much. It's almost perfectly flat, but you can see it does have a upswept blade, which does kind of sometimes help a little bit with your utility cuts because I don't know, I guess just having it go up just a little bit helps you get a little bit more leverage. Now, don't get me wrong. A regular Wharncliff or typical Wharncliff, one of the best parts about it is that you're going to get with your pressure right at the tip. With a lot of knives, the most leverage you're going to get is going to be right here, the closest to your handle. But in this case of the Wharncliff, you're going to be able to get just as much pressure at the tip or as if you were doing it back here. Same thing with this. You're going to get maximum amount of pressure and leverage at the tip, which is what a Wharncliff is for. Now, this one is a flat ground blade, carbon fiber on this side, titanium frame lock on this side, S35 VN blade steel. This is a front flipping action that is very, very well tuned, very fall shutty. I tend to like to, instead of using a front flipper, I like to reverse flick this knife. I actually find it more enjoyable than the front flipper for whatever reason. Very thin handled, so very thin in the hand and nice and comfortable. This one is a full size. They do have a mini version of this knife though, just FYI. So they do have a mini version with micarta, and they have other versions of all these knives for the most part. Next, three more. We have the TWOSUN TS116 with all the fingerprints on its 14C28M blade. Now this is a fantastic example of a Wharncliff. It is almost a little bit elongated though. So a lot of Wharncliffs would go like this and then start sweeping down right here. This one starts sweeping down immediately. So it does have a little bit more of an elongated tip, which is still very cool because this thing is going to be a mega slicer for utility cuts. Very fine tip, so you are going to have to be careful with that tip, but you can get maximum amount of leverage on there, especially with this handle that sweeps down right here. It's very comfortable in the hand for the utility cutting grip. Now when you switch to these grips, it's not as good because it's not really made for that, but as long as you're choking up, you can get some good slicing done if you need to. But once you switch to a utility cut, man, this thing is great. We do have a regular flipping action. I'm not a big fan of the flipper tab, but it does work just fine. And then you also have a reverse flicking hole. It's a little tight, but you can get it if you squeeze in there. Steel deep carry pocket clip, G10 scales, steel liner lock. This is a budget option from TWOSUN. Big old Wharncliff though. This is a pretty long knife. The TWOSUN TS116. Okay, next, this one is a fixed blade. This is the Artisan Sea Snake, designed by Mike Emler, my buddy. You can see his logo right there. Mike Emler design. This one's in the ARPM9 steel. I am beginning to enjoy that steel. It is a powdered version of 9CR. Basically, nice, thin, compact little EDC knife. Before he designed this, I was actually looking for a knife just like this. I wanted something, literally a Wharncliff. I wanted it to be a little EDC folder, beautiful choil, and this is all that. Nice, thin blade stock, thin behind the edge, very compact, small handle. It's perfect in the hand, very comfortable while still being just a little tiny knife. Not tiny, but small, because, you know, it's EDCable. Now, this isn't supposed to be a neck knife. You can get a tech lock so that you can wear it on your hip or on your belt. The retention from the retention from the sheath is really good. And man, yeah, this thing is just a little tiny little work knife. It's such a great little work knife. And this steel is easy to maintain. You can maintain it in the field. You can maintain it at work. It strops back very, very good. I mean, extremely well stropping and honing capabilities of this steel. Last but not least, we have the new Civivi Hadros. This is a Dylan Mallory design. I do have the review of this coming very soon. We do have 10CR 13 MOV, or 15 MOV, sorry, 10CR 15 MOV. Beautiful Wharncliff blade with a nice deep hollow. Very, very thin behind the edge. It's not going to be an edge you want to pry with or anything, but regular utility cuts. And you see how we have a little bit of a downward handle or sloping handle, which is going to benefit for the Wharncliff. Very thin and slim in the handle, so I do feel the clip quite a bit, being a deep carry clip. However, in the grips you're going to be using this mostly, and it is very comfortable. And it is a thumb stud action. Great detent. Civivi does usually do a pretty good job with their detents. We have is it internal? Yeah, I thought it was an internal stop pin. No, I guess not. Just this stop pin right there. So one single stop pin on the close and on the open. And then there's also different kinds of micarta that they have. This one's the brown micarta. Steel liner lock. The access to the thumb studs is good in both hands. And the clip is reversible with the deep carry clip. They use T8 hardware all the way around, so very, very awesome. Great little tiny user, and there you guys go, the Civivi Hadros. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.